Yo, back at it again. B Junior from Endurance Productions Movie Reviews, coming to you today with another segment of You Can't Polish a Turd reviews. That is kind of a term that you need to take lightly, guys, because what I'm saying is it doesn't always mean that a turd is smelly or just ugly. There are some nice turds out there. I mean, there's some lovable turds even out there. One of which I'm going to talk to you today is a one that's fitting of this series, but it's a bad movie, but it's good in that bad way. So it's a little different than an utter turd in my book. So it's a step up above an utter turd, which means I can probably watch this movie again, and it's good to revisit every long once in a while. The movie I'm going to review today on You Can't Polish a Turd is the uncut version of Slaughter High. There it is, that iconic one-sheet poster art there you see in the video store. Coming in that 4-pack that I bought recently, I've been enjoying here lately. Let's put that aside for right now. Basically, Slaughter High is from the filmmakers, or I don't want to call them the backbone, but probably a lot of the behind-the-scenes people from the original Friday the 13th movie. Kind of got together and threw together a quickie mid-80s horror slasher movie that kind of cashes in and kind of borrows from a lot of different slasher films of its time. Slaughter High, albeit it's a turd, it's kind of a lovable turd in a way, because it tries to cash in so much on Friday the 13th and April Fool's Day and a couple other slashers of that time frame, and it does pay homage to both. As a matter of fact, they have a little Jason part in the movie. They have or Jason Voorhees, that is. And they also have an April Fool's references throughout the movie that kind of tie in with the story. I gotta say, I enjoyed revisiting this one a whole lot better than Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 recently. But I gotta say, it's not one that's going to go down the archives as far as being a slasher that I really love or anything. It's just one of those that I'm going to put in the back of the collection, so that whenever all the good ones have been watched and rewatched to the point where I'm just looking for something utterly different to look at and laugh at and have a decent time with, good in that bad way, I'd pull out Slaughter High again. Slaughter High, I'll tell you a little bit about the story, then we'll kind of go through the pros and cons. Slaughter High is your basic run-of-the-mill slasher from the mid-80s. Has to do with a class nerd that's picked on, and a little accident happens and he gets burned pretty bad about the face and neck area, and cut to 5 years later for the class reunion. He organizes getting all the kids in high school that picked on him prior to the accident to come back and join him for this little reunion, at which time he takes them out one at a time until the very end, climax of the movie, in true 80s slasher style, basically, if you will. This is the uncut version of the movie. I don't know what the difference is between it and the R-rated version. I never really watched it enough growing up. I did rent it a couple times, but I never had it in the collection until now, as a matter of fact. So I gotta say, the uncut version, special effects in this movie are, let's get into the pros and cons. It does have a couple of redeeming features. Although it is a turd, it does have some redeeming features. The special effects in this movie are not that bad. For practical effects, there's a lot of movies out there, of course, during this genre, or in this genre during this time frame, that did the special effects a whole lot better. Don't get me wrong. But the special effects in this movie are not that bad. There are a few, I'm probably saying around 3 good kill scenes in the movie, and some of the other kills in the movie are a little more subpar, but you can tell there was some creativity behind the special effects department in this movie. Not the best, not Savini or Nicotero at work here, but it was still pretty decent, I thought. It was decent for what it was, a real low budget, low grade horror flick from the 80s. The main cons of this movie, and what puts it in this You Can't Polish a Turd review series, is that being that it does pay homage to other movies, it still doesn't stand the fact that it borrows and steals from so many other horror movies. It out and out steals a lot of the same storyline and everything, of course, as Friday the 13th, and they even do a Jason Voorhees hockey mask uh, jump scare in joke in the movie, and just flat out get that done. Also, Harry Manfredini, who you know from doing all the scores of the Paramount Friday the 13th movies and many other scores for that matter, he gets a music credit in this movie, and I looked it up. He is on there as Harry Manfredini music right there. The thing about it is, guys, after you watch this movie, listen to the music tracks and where they're put in the movie. All it is all the music through this movie of Slaughter High is just basically lifted or unused Friday the 13th music cues that they just took off him. You just get this feeling like they just had this wad of cash, right? And they're just flipping it out, looking at Harry, looking back at the money, looking at Harry, like, okay, how much would you do it for, Harry? Yeah, yeah. After they count out a few grand, they just hand him the money. He hands them the music tracks. They take it back to the production house and just splice it in wherever they want to. The music doesn't work in the right places at all, but it sounds just like a Friday the 13th movie. It doesn't have the traditional, main theme in there, but it has all the fright and jump scare music cues that Friday the 13th movies had. So, coming full circle back to my point, you get the feeling after you watch this movie that they just went to Harry Manfredini's sound studio one day and they just basically handed him a wad of cash. He gave him a bunch of unused Friday the 13th cues, or just laid down some cues real quick in a day's time and just gave it to him. They took it back in the editing room and just spliced it all in wherever they wanted to, and none of it works really well. But it is kind of nice and refreshing to hear his music in such a bad movie, because it does help the movie a little bit, I think. Another redeeming feature, or excuse me, another main con to this turd is basically that it's got a couple different directors that get credit for it. It's got actually 3 different directors that get credit for this movie, and writing credit as well. You can definitely tell the first act of the movie is directed by somebody different than who directs the other 2/3 of the movie. Because if you can just get past the first 22 minutes of the movie, you're in slasher land. You're in your typical 80s slasher, and it's almost watchable beyond that point, almost. But that first act, or first 20 minutes, first reel of the movie, a little more than a reel of the movie, God, guys, it's like a bad college comedy from the 80s that's not even above the comedy standards that it should be. It's really terrible. I mean, it's just not good acting at all. I mean, it's bad. It's horrible acting throughout. If you can get to about the end of the first act and get into the second act of the movie, where they finally get to the reunion part of the movie, it's actually a decent low-grade slasher, if you take my meaning. It's not that bad beyond that. It's actually about halfway watchable at that point, because the special effects kick in, and it gives you a little more bang for your buck at that point. But you can definitely tell there's some different creative minds. Probably too many chiefs, too little Indians, or however you want to call it, however you want to say it. Too many managers, not enough people working. So I don't know. Too many thumbs in the pie on this little film to be you can't take it real seriously anyway. The name of the movie is Slaughter High, so it's one of those. I'll put it to you this way: the first act of the movie, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but the first part of the movie, the first act, it feels like a really bad, unused trauma footage from like Toxic Avenger movies or something. But then once you get past the first act of the movie and you get into the second and third act, where it's like the slasher part of the movie where everybody's getting taken out, the creative kills start happening. Now, granted, not all the kills are great. Some of them are quite goofy. But once you get into that point of the movie, it's actually just about watchable, especially the third act, when it's just down to one person, and it's just down to the last female and the prerequisite female lead that lives to the end, and the killer. Another major con is the killer is not very impressive. Even while he's stalking them, he's just got this little kind of like a court jester fool mask on. It's kind of creepy looking at first, and then after you see it, you're kind of like, well, it's not really scary. And he's wearing his Letterman jacket from school. So, it's just kind of like a big whoop after the first couple times you see him. And then at the end, whenever he takes his mask off and he reveals that it is the nerdy guy, but he's got the burns on his face, the burns aren't really that scary. So we're not talking like Jason Voorhees here, mangled look or nothing like that. So you're not really going to get a scare out of that. Another kind of, I guess you would call it a pro, is Carolyn Monroe. I believe it was from Maniac, one of the main heroines in Maniac, and a couple in the last horror movie, I think, also with Joe Spinell. She's the lead female in this movie, and I can't figure out how in the world they got her into this because I thought that she was in some better slashers at this point, but somehow or another they roped her into this project. Must have been some other cash behind the, or a friend of a friend got her talked into it. I don't know, but she's in this movie. That's about the only name-worthy person that's in Slaughter High, to my knowledge. Um, it's 92 minutes long from 1986. No special features on the DVD. It does have English 5:1 audio, surround sound. Surround sound's okay on it, to be honest. It's got a theatrical trailer, which is hilarious because it's sort of like Grindhouse style, where it's all scratchy and everything. It's not a real good print, so I don't know. For a schlocky, low-grade turd of a slasher from the 80s, except none other than Slaughter High. You can get it at Walmart in this little 4-pack, and it won't hurt your pocket. You'll end up paying $1.25 per movie. $5, guys. That's been my little You Can't Polish a Turd review on Slaughter High, guys. Don't expect a whole lot, but if you're a genre fan of low-grade 80s slashers, or slashers that are good in that bad way, this is your movie. You're gonna like this one. If you don't even like good in that bad way kind of flicks, don't even bother with it, guys. See you next time. Take care.